for the presentation, and we can also have the, okay. So welcome everyone. I'm sorry about, I don't know what is happening here this morning. It seems like, I don't know if I've got a bit of a glitch, but we are busy with webinar number 12. This is in our ISO series, and we are going to be addressing the objectives and risks and the interrelationship between the objectives and the risks. I'm just going to give you a few guidelines that we are going to be showing you and adhering during this webinar. So please mute your microphone. Please make sure that it is on mute. Secondly, you can keep your video on. Please keep your video off. It is just better for the people that is in countries where and in places where the streaming is not so good. And let me, I will be busy for about 45 minutes, maximum 50, and then we will have 10 minutes for questions. And please, you will see in your Zoom chat box that you've got the that you can raise their questions, put it down there, type it down there, and Elaine will document that for us. Then attendance certificates, please provide us in the chat box with your name, your surname, your mobile number, your email address, and the company you are working for, and we will issue for you an electronic certificate that after this webinar that we will process it, and hopefully you will get it by latest tomorrow. And then the webinar is recorded, so please make sure that everybody is aware of that. We will also post this on our YouTube YouTube channel that I will explain to you in the closing of this webinar. And then the table of contents. What I'm going to do is I'm going to speak, just quickly give you an overview of Crest Advisory Africa. Then I'm going to speak about the meaning of risk, how to determine the objectives, and then your risk and consequence analysis. And then we're going to be speaking about the formula P square ST square. That is our own Crest Advisory Africa formula that we have actually worked out in terms of the controls that any company can actually implement. And then we're going to speak about the hierarchy of controls, the ISO, the isolytics system, and then endorsement and freebies and questions. I just want to try this again quickly, guys, that we can possibly. Can you see this, Helene? Sorry.
No, Nico, at the moment we just see a black screen.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, now we're just back at the oh yeah, then it's gone now.
Okay. No, I need to keep it as it was then. I'm sorry about this. I need to see what is happening with PowerPoint. Maybe it is me, a user problem. So we are in week 12. So we are going to be speaking about the objectives and risks and the interrelationship. I want to ask you firstly, what is the meaning of risk? Risk is a simple word, but what is the meaning of risk? There's a lot of various understandings of risk, and people don't always know what is the focus of risk. And if you're looking at the ISO space, risk is actually integrated in ISO 9001, 14000, the environmental one. It is also integrated in ISO 45000, occupational health and safety, business continuity, security. It is also on IT or information in ISO 27001. Now, if you're looking at what is the meaning of risk in ISO 73, 73 is for me a fantastic document because it is actually giving you all the definitions that you need to know that is applicable on risk. So that gives you a vocabulary and a terminology basis that you can always go to and understand what is the meaning of a specific phrase that you are working with. So risk is defined in ISO 73 as the effect of uncertainty on objectives. That is simple. That is not that is simple and And everybody can understand that. If you've got objectives, what is the uncertainty that you are experiencing, and what can affect the achieving of your objectives? Now, if you're looking at note 1 here at the bottom, it says there an effect is a deviation from the expected. A deviation from the expected is critical because that speaks about whether it is positive or negative. Now, both of those is actually good because they in risk there is also opportunities. So if it's a positive effect on your objectives, then it can create for you the opportunity to actually move forward in a different, possibly business environment, or that it creates for you an opportunity to work in. Secondly, note 2 is objectives can have different aspects such as financial, health and safety, environmental, etc. And you can extend that into business continuity, every kind of environment where you are working with IT, supply chain, and can apply at different levels, such as strategic, organization-wide, project, risk, product, and process. So if you're looking at note 3, it says risk is often characterized by references to potential events. So events is actually the incidents, but in ISO we're speaking about events and the consequences. So the consequences that that you are encountering in terms of an event or a combination of that. Note 4 is speaking about the risk is often expressed in terms of a combination of the consequences of an event and the associated likelihood of the occurrence. Now, consequence and likelihood is always your measurement that you've got on your risk matrix to determine your level of risk. And then note 5 is uncertainty is a state, even partial, of deficiency of information related to understanding or knowledge of an event, its consequences or likelihood. So if we're going to objectives, you will see that objectives is actually the critical part. We have actually addressed it. We've actually addressed objectives in a previous webinar. I think it was about 2 weeks ago, that we were speaking about specifically objectives. Now, I don't want to speak today about objectives in totality. I want to speak about the integration between objectives and risk, and what is the effect of risk on objectives. Now, without objectives, as per the definition, you don't have risk. If your objectives are not defined correctly, you don't have risk, because you cannot determine the effect of uncertainty on objectives. And because of that, one needs to be actually in a position to have your objectives to be in a space where you have defined it well, where you have made sure that every objective that you've got is aligned with your strategic direction, your strategic vision, with everything there, and that you can actually measure that. If it is not measurable, then it is not a clearly defined objective. It is not SMART. And everybody of you know SMART. If you don't know it, SMART is the abbreviation for simple, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. So everything that you are doing needs to be SMART in terms of your objectives. I have been consulting companies that was giving me a one-word objective, health and safety, or just quality. That is not an objective at all. You need to be saying, what about quality? Do you want to have an objective of 99.5% quality on your services, or on your products? Do you want to have what is the specific measurement that you can actually deduct out of the quality process, or on a product, or on a service process? So is that to do with your customer satisfaction? Does it have to do with your operations? Does it have to do with your business advantage, that you are actually implementing there. And the objectives of a management system are the expression of the organization's intent to treat the identified risk and ensure that the management system requirements are aligned in line with the organization's needs. Is that aligned with the organization's needs? Or if you're talking about financial objectives, every company has got a financial objective. Every company has either, whether you are a non-profit organization, you have to have a sustainability objective there. You have to have a legal, a regulatory or a compliance objective that you need to comply with. If you are in the banking industry, whether you are a regulator, the laws of the specific country that you are working in is actually providing for you guidance in terms of your compliance environment. And initially, it is necessary to establish the objectives of the management system in consultation or collaboration with the interested parties. Now, what is interested parties? Interested parties, we have spoken about it last time. Interested parties has to do with your stakeholders. It has to do with your shareholders. And there's a difference between your stakeholders and your shareholders. Your stakeholders is people or institutions or subcontractors that can be affected by or perceived to be affected by a decision that you as a company are making, whereas a shareholder is looking at how much profit can I make out of my shares. That is two different things, way different. So the objectives of management system are needed to determine the scope and must be validated at the highest level of the organization. Now this scope, very important, because a scope in a management system defines what are we going to be measuring you as if we are going to be implementing a management system, if we are going to be training people, if we are going to be auditing a management system, and if this is auditing to be certified in terms of ISO, any kind of ISO, your scope determines what the auditor is going to be asking for, as well as your scope can have certain exclusions, and that exclusions must be explained, and that is then not part and parcel of your objectives, and this must be validated at the highest level. Now this must be signed off by the board, and the board is actually giving you approval to do what you need to do in terms of your in reaching the objectives. And then the goals can be refined during the project, particularly after the completion of the risk analysis. If you are looking at any ISO, clause 4 is talking about understanding the context of the organization. If you don't understand the context internally, externally, legally, with your stakeholders, your shareholders, and everybody that is an interested party in terms of your objectives and your business model that you are going forward to, you are actually missing the point, and you can actually have a wrong objective there. And it is clear that the objectives should be formally documented. Those objectives must be all over your business, because you are actually living your objectives. You are driving your KPIs, your key risk indicators, your business continuity, your health and safety, your quality. Everything that you are doing is in line with achieving your objectives, and you are driving objectives. So if you're looking at clause 6.2 of a general ISO, it says their operations, objectives, and planning to achieve them. That is how you are actually driving your business. And these organizations shall establish operational objectives at relevant functions and levels. And if you're looking then, I want to go over to this page. If you're looking at a risk register, any risk register that you are working with has got or is supposed to have, firstly, a strategic objective that is aligned with the company's overall objective, and then you've got a specific objective that you are measuring that is actually deducted from your strategic objective. Out of that, you are then going to list what is the causes and the consequences of not reaching your intended objective. And out of that, you are going to be listing your risk, the specific risk that is going to create uncertainty in achieving the objective and having an effect on your objective. If you have done that, you are then going into a measurement in terms of your inherent risk rating. Now, your inherent risk rating is a measurement on your risk matrix, whether it is a 1 to 5 scale or a 5 by 5 or a 4 by 4 or a 3 by 3 matrix that you are speaking about. And then that initial part of your risk environment has been completed. The most critical part of that is not for me actually the measurement of the inherent risk rating, but because if you are looking at inherent risk rating means that you must put yourself in a position to determine what should have happened if there was no controls in place. Now, I can guarantee you, people that is working in companies that is 30 years old, 40 years old, 50 years old, and older, and you are there for 2 years, how can you conceptualize a risk that was actually supposed to be identified 20 years ago? That's a difficult concept. So what we have actually brought into our methodology is to look at 5 universal consequences that we are actually assessing. So firstly, what is the strategic impact on your objective? And what is the risk in terms of your strategic impact? What is your operational impact? How are your operations being affected by an interruption or disruption or COVID-19 as we are now at the moment? What is the financial impact of that? What is your legal and compliance impact? And what is the reputational impact of your consequences? So if you are having these 5 universal consequences and you are measuring each of these and you are saying, but my risk is A, B, and C, and this is having an effect on my strategic achievement of my objectives, then you've got a specific point where you need to go and address that. For operationally, how is that affecting the pushing out or the production of products or the delivering of services? Financial is, it is affecting my bottom line. Clear. And then your legal and compliance. Am I standing a chance to lose my license? Am I standing a chance to actually be being penalized heavily in terms of non-compliance? And what is my reputational impact? How is my reputation? How do I protect my reputation of my company, my people, and everybody that's actually doing business in every environment? Now, if you're looking at that, this is actually your input into your inherent risk rating. Now, from your inherent risk rating, you are actually going over with your objectives to your management controls. Now, management controls, I have seen with many companies that people are populating that part with anything that they can have, from a job description to a policy on talent management, from a policy on health and safety to an exercise and testing of the health and safety process. But if you're going to actually analyze your management controls that you've got, your management controls, we have got a formula that we are using with all our facilitation across the world in terms of risk committees, board committees on risk, etc. And we are using this formula here: P square ST square. Now, if you're looking at P square ST square, it's easy to remember, very easy. And all of these controls has to do with, one P stands for people controls. The second P stands for process controls. The third, the S is for system controls. What kind of systems do you have in place? T stands for tools and equipment controls. And the last T is for technology. What kind of controls do you have in all of these? And if you're looking at people controls, you can quantify in terms of number of people as well as financially, to say that that person is actually costing me so much a month and so much a year. Process controls, I can guarantee you, I haven't seen a company in the last 15 years that I've been consulting that has got for me an analysis on the cost of the processes. And that is actually the biggest bond that you've got in your whole organization, because processes is creating the glue. It creates the bonding material where you are actually implementing something from a process. The people that don't understand what they need to do goes through a process and they've got to follow a process. Auditors that needs to come and audit takes a process and ask people in a process what do they need to do. But this process, the cost of processes, I want to ask any one of you, please make a comment in the chat box. How much is the cost of a policy? Because if you're looking at the cost of a simple policy, just a health and safety policy, and you are not looking at the paper, not looking at the words, but looking at the time spent by every executive, every workplace forum, every MD or every CEO and every board where that policy is going through, and you are calculating that hourly cost of every person that has actually have a touch point on that policy process, then you will see the simple policy cost you hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands of US dollars. And that is where processes are so important, and people are negating it. People are thinking that I have got this history of doing A, B, and C, but that is actually affecting my objectives. My processes is actually clearly aligned with my objectives. And one of the attendees here, Mr. Rian Meiberg, has explained to me his view of the processes. It is actually like a chain reaction. It is you are taking your service level, your policy that you've got or your scope, and that is your first link in your chain. The second link is a procedure that is linked to that specific the policy, etc. The third one is possibly an SOP. The fourth link could be a document, a minute, a form that you have completed, a checklist, etc. And your fifth link is all the evidence that you've got, where you've got a meeting, just like what we've got now at the moment. We've got the recording of this. We've got the attendance list. We're going to issue for you certificates. But all of those are actually linking into each other. And this process, if you are going to quantify a process or processes, you're going to see that you are sitting on intellectual property that is costing your company millions. If you're looking at systems, systems can be anything. So it can be a payroll system, it can be a SAP system, Oracle system, any kind of system that can actually make things easier and that you've got real-time information on everything. If you're looking at tools, I am working with gold companies. I'm working with diamond companies. I'm working with platinum companies, and all of them has got some kind of scale. A scale is a tool, and that scale is actually measuring the weight of the diamond, of the gold, of the platinum, of the bronze, of the silver. It doesn't matter. But if that scale, that is a simple tool, is not linked to be clever to a system, then you are having human error that can affect your achievement of your objectives. And then every equipment that you've got, and people don't take these things too seriously, because most of us are focusing on systems because this is making our work easier. And then technology. Technology for me is anything that can create for me machine learning, artificial intelligence, number plate recognition, facial rec. It can also, now at the moment with COVID, technology, you can put it down there and it can identify a person. Does it have, does the person have a mask on? What is the temperature of that person? So technology is now making that your processes, your control processes are much easier. Now, if you're looking at all of these, this is actually going over into the hierarchy of controls. And if you're looking at risk management, the control process that you have got just after your inherent risk rating, you are looking at that P square is T square, and then you have to go and determine, is that person going to eliminate the hazard or the risk? Is it going to substitute the hazard or the risk? person that we are appointing, or the process, or the system, or the tool or technology, is it going to assist us to re-engineer or isolate the risk? And we can see on the right hand side that you've got examples there, and then processes, and then PPE, and then if you look at the left side, you will see there that the least effective and the most effective. And the most effective is usually where people apply their minds, where you are sitting and thinking about how can we do this, and how can we collectively come up with identifying the root cause, and out of the root cause analysis, to say that how can we eliminate this, firstly, that it doesn't happen again? How can we substitute what we have got? And how can we engineer the problem away? And then if you have done all those, what kind of process are you writing, and what kind of PPE or any kind of protective equipment you can use? So this hierarchy of controls are actually critical for everybody to understand in the whole risk management process, and the assessment of the risk versus your objectives, because your risk is actually dependent on your objective. And if you don't have this combination approach of the P square S T square, your hierarchy of controls, you will never get to this space where you are actually sitting with to understand and to say, do I have legal controls? Do I have administrative controls? Do I have managerial controls? Do I have technical controls? And each of these controls is actually controlling your objective and making sure that your objective is reached, and that you are actually driving the objective in what you are doing. And then we are speaking about, I just want to go over into this as well. So every one of the previous 4 slides are actually speaking about management controls. And that is still, we are still on the one block of the risk register where you are speaking about your management controls. And you can go and categorize that to say, is it preventative controls? Is it detective controls? Or is it corrective controls? Now, if I'm looking at this, this is actually preventive controls, has to do with proactive controls. How do you build, and how do you design, and how do you engineer proactive controls to make sure that everything that you are doing, even the desegregation of duties, are actually controlled preventatively? That you don't sit and wait for something to happen, and then you are trying to manage the emergency, and then out of the emergency to build a control out of the emergency. That is totally wrong. If you're looking at detective controls, there's a lot of detective controls that we are working with. We are working with, in the simplest form, your house and your car. Your car has got an alarm. That is a detective control. If somebody tampers with your car alarm is going off. There's no person close to it. The alarm is going off. If you're working with your house environment, your house has got an alarm, it has got a panic button, etc. But actually, it is, the alarm has been installed to make sure that while you are sleeping, that somebody is still monitoring the controls and the objective. Your objective is to be safe, and your detective control is here is to detect any movement in your house that is not authorized. Also, when you are away from your house, that you've got an early warning system that is actually working for you with your alarms. And then your corrective controls is actually working with every kind of technical and legal investigative forensic controls to actually bring back the control to the desired state. I like the example of using in this environment, the human resources policies on discipline. If you are speaking about discipline, you have got a policy on discipline, and out of that policy on discipline, you are setting the rules for the company's culture, and you are saying that you are supposed to book on duty this time of the day. If you are late, you can get a verbal warning. If you are a second time late, you can get a written warning. A third time late, a final warning, and then a fifth time we're going to a discipline case. Now, if you're looking at that process, it is actually every time that simple rule are being broken, it is actually affecting your objective, because your objective is actually built around, I need 300 people in my business to actually execute these tasks to produce a product or a service. Now, if people are starting to be actually stealing time, then you have to have something that can bring them back to the set standard or the required standard. And this is where your corrective controls is coming in, because this is very important that all three of these, they are not standing as pillars alone. They are actually standing in as a combination of a collective approach of actually understanding how do you implement the controls and how do you reach your objectives in exactly the same way in this year, next year, and the following year, and that your continuous improvement strategy is working with us now as well. So if you're looking at a risk register, we are now finished with that simple environment where we were speaking about management controls. The management controls are now looking at the inherent risk rating. It is also looking at the consequences that I was speaking about, the strategic, the operational, the financial, the compliance, and the reputational consequences. And out of that, you are going to determine and list what kind of controls do you have there, as well as you are going to list the internal control effectiveness of each one of those to determine, do I have a control, yes or no? What is the effectiveness of that control? Is it a 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%, 50%? It doesn't matter. You log it in terms of a criteria there. And then you are actually out of that, you can get to a percentage where you can actually, if you've got a mathematical model on your risk assessment, you can very easily deduct um, your internal control effectiveness from your inherent risk rating to get to the residual risk rating. And within that space, you have got everything that you've got and you can prove it. Now, after the residual risk rating space where you have rated the likelihood as well as the consequence, you are sitting then with a level of risk that you've got, and then you need to go and prioritize that. Now, out of all these tools that I was speaking about here now, the question is, if you can prioritize that in a way that you can identify the top 5, the top 10 risks, the top 15 risks, each one of those, then you can go and actually go and determine as well, what is the top 10 risks for the company? What is the top 10 risks for a department? What is the top 10 risks operationally? What is the top 10 risks for a project? What is the top 10 risks for executing your objectives? Now, all of these are actually working in tandem then with your action plan that needs to be implemented and assessed, and due dates being given for that. So if you're looking at the process there, I hope that I have addressed everything that I could about objectives, the meaning of risk, the P square S T square methodology, as well as the hierarchy of controls. And I'm going to close off with our Isolytics GRC software. Now, for people that has attended our webinars, please, you have got access to our system. For the people that did not attend any of our webinars, guys, you are sitting here with a fantastic system that you can use. It is costing you for 6 weeks nothing. You can apply now. We can give you 6 weeks access to it, and you can play around with it. It is your system for 6 weeks. So if you're looking at our system, Isolytics, it is actually standing for ISO Analytics. So we have brought it now together to make it a vanilla name to say Isolytics, and we have built in there a GRC model So GRC is standing for governance, risk, and compliance. We've also built in the combined assurance model that is working in terms of your GRC. We have also got a module of I square mass. As you can see, we like the square part. P square is T square or I square mass. I square mass is for incident and investigation management system. So that has to do with anything from quality to health and safety to business continuity, anything, and we can allocate it specifically to those standards. Then we've got the bow tie analysis on assessing a risk further. This is a beautiful program that we have the license for. It is the company is based in Holland or in the Netherlands, and we've got the license to resell it here in Africa. We've got enterprise risk management that is actually built in terms of ISO 73, 31000, etc. And then we've got the ISO integrated management system. And this is where we've got a unique value proposition for you. This is where you can actually go and determine what is the maturity and what is the health of your specific ISO system or management system that you're working with. Whether it is ISO 9001, we've actually pre-populated already about 14 ISO standards there on all of these methodologies. So this is integratedly giving you an assessment of your management system. We've got a mobile system that you can use on your cell phone, on any mobile device. We've got checklists that is being used as our risk assessment methodology. We have built in compliance. Surveys is critical for assessing your service, assessing a product, assessing the maturity of your workforce, assessing the health of your workforce. All of these are already built into one system, and this is all underlying with machine learning as well as artificial intelligence. And out of this, it is actually giving you a fantastic overview in a combined assurance methodology of what you need to have. Just some of our membership and endorsements. I want to go over to our membership and endorsements here. I want to stress actually this one here that has to do with the PCB. The PCB is for us a fantastic partner. They are based in Canada, and we are, as a platinum partner, we are number 23 out of 29 platinum partners globally. That is the highest level that anybody can be within the PCB. And as you can see, we are aligned with other institutes as well as qualification authorities. I want to ask you, please go and visit our website. Our website has been revamped. We have built in a media store there. So we've got firstly, we've got on Facebook, we've got ISO Global Assistance that you can ask any question there. We will assist you from toolkits to assistance in how to implement ISOs. We've got webinars. Our webinars is actually on this YouTube channel that you can go in there. Our articles is written by ourselves as well as experts in the industry. Our brochures and catalogs, we've got it there. So we've got one place that you can go and click through and get what you need to have. We've got also fantastic white papers that is actually giving you thought leadership and opinion pieces about what we are doing, how we are doing it, just like this one here. If you go and look at the website of the PCB, pcb.com, go to the media room, go to downloads. This PCB Insights is the bi-monthly magazine, and I have written an article in there that is on page 60 to 66. So please go and get a copy of it. It is for mahala, for free. You can have it. And then for everybody that is attending this webinar, I see that my time management is fairly well, that if you are attending this webinar, you are qualifying for a 6 weeks free access to our Isolytics system that you can go and play around there we don't have a problem with it. We can register on it, you on it, we can register you as a company on it, and within 48 hours or even faster, you will have your access to our system, and you can utilize it. And if you've got any questions, give us feedback, please. We want to improve. We want to be continuously improving, and you will see that the Athletic system, you haven't seen it as yet, as because none of our competitors, and we have done an extensive study on our competitors, none of our competitors has what we have got within our system. And we want to ask you, every Wednesday between 11 and 12 o'clock, we have got a webinar that is taking you at the most 45 minutes. We have contracted with you in a social contract with only 60 minutes, and we will not go over that. So thank you very much for everybody that has attended this webinar, and you can contact us there. And I want to ask Elaine if there's any questions that we can answer. Elaine? Hello, Elaine? Elaine? I don't. Okay, so let me go through. I see that on the questions we don't have has become a very big deal. Health and safety. Thank you, Dr. E from Zim. Zim Standards Organizations. Thank you very much that you are attending here. I really appreciate that. Thomas van Sale, he has given his company details. And please, everybody, we need to send you a proof that you have attended this. So thank you very much. If there's no questions, then we can sign off. It is now 11:45. Thank you very much. And we will post the recording on YouTube by this afternoon. So please have free access to that. Thank you and goodbye.